Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and I'm here serving up some Beetlejuice realness. As we're on episode 16 of Delicious in Dungeon or Dungeon Meshi. Oh, buddy, last episode. Well, our crew got out of the doghouse. They managed to make it out of their rut and get Marcel back up to shape, even though she was temporarily turned to stone. And Laios is learning defense magic, which is great. He might need that in the future. And we faced some dryads and a cockatrice. Episode 15, there was just a lot going on. And I loved every second of it. And we got to make some cockatrices and dryads in the kitchen, which has been my favorite thing I've cooked so far. I was so proud of myself for making sauerkraut and kielbasa and all that. It was great. It was a great day. But we're on episode 16 and we're moving forward. So I actually, episode 12 has been on YouTube and episode 13 has been on Patreon, and I have a lot of comments. I'm super excited about that. The mods were like, "You're good to go." And I was like, yes. So thank you for not spoiling me so I can read your stuff. Yes. Awesome. Great. So let's get started because we got a lot of comments to get through. Chair check 2424 for episode 12 says, Marcel, there's no such thing as good and evil in magic. Chilchuck, that's exactly what someone doing evil magic would say. I have really loved when they wrote this comment. They probably had no idea that I had been up to episode 15. I really, really like Chilchuck kind of exploring why he's so distrusting, not distrusting of elves necessarily, but distrusting of dark magic and what it's done to the people he cares about. And so it's really cool to see Chilchuck kind of open up and express, because most of it's been internalized. So it's cool to see him open up and tell Marcel especially like why he feels the way that he does. So that's been really cool. I've enjoyed these dynamics that have developed as the season has gone, right? Then we have Pretentious Name 01 for episode 12 says, the awesome thing about Fallon seeing ghosts is she sees them as they were, as opposed to all the other shots of ghosts we have seen as blue, dried, and decomposing. I hadn't thought about that. I thought maybe the ghosts weren't, because the ghost of the woman that she saw, was the ghost of the woman in the graveyard that she saw actually decent looking and not scary either? I do think that that's interesting. I think that to me comes with Fallon seeing people for genuinely who they are and not viewing them as monsters or something to be afraid of, whereas maybe everyone else's fear kind of alters that perception. But again, Fallon's also a prodigy in magic, so could that have something to do with it? Well, of course it could. You know, we don't know, and we don't know. They keep teasing Laios and Fallon's lineage on a little carrot in front of us, and it's like, all right, be that way. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I personally ascribe it as a combination of both Fallon's personality and her view of ghosts not being a scary monster, but also maybe her lineage as well, having something to do with that. Time will tell if we find out which is true, or if both is true. Kulo Bumbo says that now that we know that it's Fallon in episode 12 that they resurrect, something from the last episode, it's just good that their plan failed because they planned on letting the dragon burn through its whole fuel tank. But if it did that, then there would have been nothing left for them to resurrect her. And that's such a good point. I was like, things worked out surprisingly in their favor by having things not work out in their favor. It's kind of like one of those unanswered prayer moments. It's like, you know, you think you want this thing, but the reality is you actually need something a little bit different that you may not have expected. So that's a really good point to bring up. I had not thought about that. So thank you. Gumi 5496 for episode 12 and Blueblade 1645 also said the same thing. The glossary from the Adventurer's Bible, which is a Dun Meshi world guide created by the author herself. I like that the author is a female mangaka. Get it? Makes sense. Says that the dark elf is just a term short-lived races use for elves who harm them, and it's tinged with fear. So yeah, it's not a real classification of any sort. Chilchuck just likes to tease Marcel. I didn't know if the dark elf thing was like a subsect of elfdom, but knowing it's just a nickname that the half-foots give them kind of makes more sense. But also, yeah, I've heard of the Adventurer's Bible. I didn't know it was called that. I knew there was like a character guide book. I haven't looked at it yet because of spoilers, obviously, but that is good to know. Good to know. So thank you, Gumi. Yijan Lee, 592, says, it's a really small thing, but I really like the scene where Laios asks Fallon what's going on when she is speaking to the spirits of the dead and just accepting it because it's just so normal for them and it shows the closeness of their relationship. Yeah, that is one thing that is very true of Laios' character in general, is that he is just a very socially accepting and tolerant person. He's so nice, and he just is like, oh, that's not weird, that's just who you are. And he's just so accepting and wonderful, and I love that about his character. But also as a brother, he's grown up around Fallon, who's been talking to ghosts for who knows how long, and he's just accepted it. Like, that's just her, that's just what she does. It's perfectly fine. I'm like, Laios, where were you during Natsume's Book of Friends? Can you cross over into that series for like an episode or two? I feel you would be needed. So yeah, I absolutely love Laios for that reason. And I think it's super, super sweet to see their bond and to see how much they're accepting of one another. It's great. So then Shazulander, which I love, that username is great, as well as Blueblade 1645 as well, said the mangaka actually drew, I love this, a little what-if storyline in the manga, that the skeleton in the red dragon's stomach wasn't Fallon, but a random gnome adventurer. And then Laios reunites with Fallon in the dungeon, since in this what-if timeline, Fallon escaped from the dragon and survived in the dungeon. She's even in a caveman outfit, for whatever reason. There's also the other storyline of what if that the mangaka drew, like what if Laios goes into the dungeon to save Fallon alone? What if Chilchuk got killed by the mimic? Or what if Senshi didn't join the party, and more. They are short little stories, only a page or two in max. I definitely said in the comment reply that when I finish this series, which would be season 1, and then later this fall when we do season 2 as it's supposed to come out, I believe, whenever I'm done, because I think if I remember correctly from what people were talking about in Discord, season 2 is going to be the last season. They're going to encapsulate the entire series in 2 seasons of 24 episodes, I think. If that's correct, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But whenever I'm done with the entire series, I would love to see all of those little what if scenarios for the entire series, because it would be kind of nostalgic to go back after watching season 2 and be like, oh, look at that from season 1 with the mimic and like all that. It would be nostalgic and fun. So I think when I'm done with the entire Dungeon Meshi series, I would love to do a reaction to those what if pages. So we'll just see. We'll see how that goes. But thank you, Shazulander. I love that. And then Blueblade 1645 added with those other comments saying, some info about the resurrection magic and the ways it could fail if the body is damaged was talked about earlier in some panels that were cut from the anime a few episodes back in a conversation between Namari and the twins. I think the author probably wanted us to be aware of those possibilities before the dragon fight. And I like knowing that that was cut. That makes a lot more sense. It's good to know that the mangaka did address it earlier, but the anime just saw fit to cut it and just let you figure it out in the moment, which is fine. In hindsight, it's like, okay, that all makes sense. So I'm glad that we finally got a little bit more insight into that. And then finally for episode 13, El Freya says, who knew the Mad Mage is a Romania Black fan carrying around his Book of the Rule of 8. His Book of the Rule of 8 is amazing. Love. I mean, if we're going to treat this second cour, because technically the first cour was 13 episodes instead of 12. So if we were going to, usually when I think of cours, I think of them, especially 24 episode seasons. I know this may not be accurate and it may not be correct, but when I see 24 episodes that have 2 separate OPs and 2 separate EDs, I view them as 2 different arcs, 2 different series or seasons within a season. You know, work with me. And so the first one was 13 episodes. So this next one's only going to be 11. So it's like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Technically episode 21 then would be our rule of 8. We'll see that. We'll keep that in the back of our mind. We get to episode 21. We'll see if that Book of 8 makes its appearance again. But yeah, so thank you all so much for the comments. I know I've talked for 10 minutes, but I feel like it was worth it because this series has been so much fun. And I've really enjoyed it, and I loved reading your comments this week. They were life-giving. I started out my week reading some great Dungeon Meshi comments, and now we're going to finish out the week watching a new episode. So with that being said, I'm not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 16 of Dungeon Meshi, aka Delicious in Dungeon, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Dog being the most loud. Bloop, 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 bloop. The thing is, my dogs bark and stuff because they hear things outside like, oh. They hear things like deer and birds. I'm going to turn that down just a hair. Ooh, Netflix is loud. But they hear things like dogs and deer and people driving by. And so it gets their attention and they bark. And I'm always like, and then if I have the headphones in, it's so quiet that you all can hear from your computers, but I can hear from here that they don't have the sound of the show to distract them. I love we have the octopus tentacle. And so she's like, yes. Aw. Of course Laios would go after the dog and try to get it. Of course he would. And the cockatrice. Yeah. I love we kept the pot. And them in the hot pot. There's something about Laios and Cruz smiling with those innocent faces down at themselves in the hot pot. What? Also, there was the dark elf with Draggle in the OP there, which is funny. I still don't know if this is like referring to all of their souls being trapped in the dungeon, and it's actually a really dark OP, but they're gonna frame it as really super cute. We'll see, right? This show wouldn't have humor like that, would it? Oh. Oh. Well. Yeah! Here, here! They've been very productive. Whatever. Uh-huh. Oh, I love Marcel's hair. With the 2 front pigtails is cute. Give me Uzumaki vibes for sure. Ooh. Oh, I love it. Her hair is so pretty there. That may be my favorite style so far. Well, all in a day's work. Shut up. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't think it's there anymore. Oh, it's all gone. Well, I'm sure the elf did clean up on aisle 3. Yes. I mean, I am not surprised that that elf would clean things up. They seem like a little bit of a neat freak. Oh, well, shit. Oh my God. Oh, bitch. No, I don't. I don't think that's it at all. Ooh. Yeah, Marcel's like, I don't think that that's it. Oh, shit. Oh my God. And that's the dragon. Yeah, the magician's eye is the dragon. Oh, little dragon. Ah! In the wall! And we're gonna throw him first! Oh my God. Oh, wow. Oh. Oh, shit. How did that happen? Oh. 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 That is wild. Oh, it's an ecosystem. That's so crazy. Like little slimes. Oh! On your tent. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, Sinchi! Oh my god. Oh my god. That is insane. Oh my god. Like it's a living body. Yes, like an immune system. Well, good grief. So it's magic. Okay. Oh my god. Well, you all. Mm. That is insane. That is so clever. I love that so much. Holy cow. All right. All right. Oh. So what we're gonna do? Do we just trust it or? Uh. Ah! Yes! Oh my god! Oh my god, girl was prepared! No, no! Breakfast surprise? Okay. Well, now, what better time than the present? Okay. Oh. Are you making stir fry? Oh. Oh. Oh my god. Oh. That egg is huge. It's like a giant ostrich egg. Egg sauce. Oh. Oh. Okay. It's like a casserole or a meatloaf. Oh my god. No. Aw. Oh. Oh my god. No! No! Ew. I would not eat that. Are cleaners even edible? Nope. Oh my god. Don't keep eating it. Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. Oh. Yes! Oh my god, it's them. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh wow. Oh my god. Oh. Oh my god, you didn't think they were. Ah! Oh, I love her. Oh, his voice. Oh, his voice. Oh, his voice. Oh. Ah! Oh! Where's Kabru? Where's Kabru? Where is he? I need him and Laios to speak. He looks so downtrodden because he can't find Fallon. Oh, we know each other from way back. Yes! Oh, Toshiro. Oh! Oh! He looks like he's fasting until he can find Fallon. Yes! Yes! It's them! It's them! It's all of them! Yes! Ah! Ah! Oh my god! What is with the pause? Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Ooh. Right, they probably don't remember it. Yeah, and you're good at telling people's characters. Correct. You're right about the former. Well, all the above. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Oh, Kabru. You are devious. Mmm. Mmm. Poor Shuro looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. I love the ogre girl. Oh my god, Chilchuck. Mmm. They were like, well, we kind of figured you were going to do that. About that. Oh. Well. Well. Oh. 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 Oh, sweetheart. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. Oh, sure. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, my God. Oh, this poor man. Yeah. Oh, you sweet bean. You sweet bean. Oh, just tell him what happened. Mm. Okay. Good. Good. Oh, get with her. She's so sweet. She seems so good for him. Tade, okay. Oh my god. I love all of this. Oh, be nice. My name is Sinshi, ma'am. Yeah, it's huge. The owl. I love she's like got the owl sleeves. Frog woman! Oh, okay. Okay, so he's a mage too. Okay. Oh, Laios, honey. Of course Kabru goes along! Of course he does! That, oh my god! Oh my god, of course! The busy... Oh my god! Die! You would go with Cinchi. You would. You would! Bitch. Oh my god! Chill Chuck, give it Tade. Yes. She's like, I'll... I was gonna say... She's like, I'll blow you in a minute, but that's not appropriate. Oh my god. Kabru's like, I want the tea. The whole tea. Nothing but the tea. Well... Okay. Oh. Oh my god. Well, oh no! Yes. Yes. Oh ho ho. Oh, well, now you can know. Oh, oh yeah. Well, he sounded and acted like it. Mmm. Oh, bitch. Oh, bitch. Oh, is Kabru gonna know he's lying? Fallon did not mention you. She took a bath with Marcel and slept with her. Oh, ha! Oh my god. Oh, bitch. Why did Shuro react so negatively to that? And Kabru? Oh my god. Ah! Ah! Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, okay. So, yeah, about that. Oh no! Kabru's like, hi, friend. Oh my god. Ah! Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Sweetheart. Yes, he will. Yeah, yeah. Well, with the magician. Oh, wait, wait. No, 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 no. We're not eating the orcs. Mmm. Oh, ho, ho. Oh, Shuro, honey. Oh, sweetheart. Oh. Sure, I'll just listen from afar. Bitch, I'm going to eavesdrop. Oh. 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 Is Shuro going to pass out when he finds out the truth? Mmm. I love their moles are on different locations around their face. Oh! Well, okay, this changes my ship a little bit, maybe. Maybe not. How much age difference is between them? Well, no, but... Okay, we're gonna... we're gonna reevaluate these ships. Well... Do we tell him? Oh. I love her sitting there making the right ball. She's like, excuse me? Love? Mm-hmm. Aww. Aww. Maybe not. Oh. Oh. An Eastern meal. Hi, Onigiri. Oh. Oh, shit. Well, oh, good job, Senshi. Oh. Oh. Well, shit. Cat's out of the bag. Oh. Oh, well, this adds a lot to it. Well. Oh, my God. Oh, bitch! What about them? Oh, Laios. Oh my God! Ah! Kabru's like, the tea gets hotter and hotter, bitches! No! Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shit. Oh no. Why is she a chicken woman? Why is she a chicken woman? Oh wait, Chilchuck and them are in that. Oh, okay. Okay, we're gonna talk about that. Or was that? Maybe that wasn't Chilchuck. What? Ha. Huh. And then the elves from the west. Yeah, about that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Laios, are you about to start a war, sir? Oh, I want to know what this Fallon is about. Oh my God. Why is she bleeding too? And now you do the end of that? Oh, bitch, what? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, hey, White Raccoon. It's been a while. Oh my god, this episode was amazing. This episode was great. This episode, this episode gave me everything I wanted. This episode gave me everything I have been desiring, which has been for Laios and Kabru to meet, and it went 1,000 times more better than I even thought it could. My shipper heart is like all over the place this episode in the best possible way, and I'm gonna try not to scream the entire time because I'll give myself a headache, and you as well. But I am so excited by this episode. Laios, you starting wars? You starting wars? Is Fallon Helen of KFC? We're gonna find out in this episode. The parties have met. Oh my god. We need to talk about it. My dog is like, I've been decent up until now, but you're going to throw this toy for me. And I'm probably, I even have a dragon mug. I came prepared. Let's dive into this. Lots of food this episode, by the way, too. I'm pretty sure that I could make the onigiri and miso soup for one meal. And you can have the fish. We've dealt with fish before, so I feel like that's, at this point, as Cinchia is teaching us in making the food, a lot of it is reusing and recycling similar ingredients, which is very mindful and very important to not be wasteful. But I feel like we've made fish already, but we have not made onigiri. I did back during 2020 when I first started this channel and we were all stuck inside of our houses because of COVID. I had lots of time, so I got into an onigiri kick. So it'll be fun to make. I haven't really made a lot of onigiri since like over the last few years because it is time consuming. But I did have a lot of fun making it, so we might do that. And I've never made miso soup before, although it sounds super sodium filled and salty. I don't know if I want to do that, but we'll see. We'll cross that bridge. And then the other thing in the little casserole dish, I'm not going to make an edible one, but the casserole dish, we could make that for a week. So I probably would like to make at least one of those. And then kind of like what we did with the pumpkin soup. I don't know what we're going to make next week, but if next week turns out to be like kind of like the Adventurers episode where they're just eating trail mix, then we might make the other dish. We'll do one this week and one the other week. I think that that's fair and reasonable. I think that's sensible. I think it's doable. So, but yeah, so that's kind of my cooking thoughts on this, but we need to talk about this episode, y'all. So episode 16, a meeting of worlds. Things are kicking into motion. And for episode 16, which we're getting into the latter part of the season, we're starting to get towards the end of season 1. I feel like we're setting things up. We're setting things up with the elves. We're setting things up that things are going to go down. And Kabru is here for it, baby. This bitch loves drama. And I'm like, yes. Kabru's like, oh, you're spilling the tea? Let me lap it up with my tongue. And I'm like, not so close to Laios, sir. But anyway, I am so wired for this episode, y'all. I'm so sorry. So Chilchuck is like, oh, by the way, while y'all were, I don't know, finding food and healing people's wounds, I went off and searched and figured out the layout of the dungeon. I love Cinchia and Laios and them were like, what we did was important as well. And Marcel's like, I didn't ask to be turned to stone. Marcel's hairdo in this episode is my favorite it's ever been. I mean, it looked really pretty when it was all down in episode 13 when she resurrected Fallon. There was a lot of symbolism with that, but at the same time, I really like this idea that she has like the two twin pigtails with the braid out to the side and the braid underneath it. It's elaborate, but it's also this combination of her letting her hair down, but also keeping it structured. I like it. It looks very magey, which Marcel is shaping up to be. Marcel's shaping up to be in a lot of trouble, as is Laios, as long as nobody talks. And I'm like, there are 4 people in that room that found out. You think none of them are going to say anything? Oh, sure. Sure, Laios. You think that that's going to stay quiet? Sure, maybe. If you didn't have like a cat-eared ninja that was outside eavesdropping on everything. So we'll get to all of that. There's so much to talk about. Chilchuck decides to lead them along the way, talking about how everything, the numbers of doors, furnitures, and types of buildings stay the same. The house never transforms into a graveyard. it's all just the roads and the walls change. The walls move at a clockwise spiral at regular intervals. He's basically like talking about how everything kind of changes, but it stays in an order. And then they get back to the beginning. And Chilchuck, I love Chilchuck's like, yes, I am a genius. He's like, it's all in a day's work. I love he's so proud of himself. He's like, look what I did. Look what I did while you all were surviving. So Chilchuck is afraid that if Laios and Marcel find out about Fallon getting drug away by the elf, that they're going to want to go chase after her. And he's like, they'll get distracted and then we won't be able to go back up and get back up, which is, Laios is like, which honestly at this point, Laios and Marcel, we're going to put them up there, are now going to be Malibu's most wanted because of their dark magic usage. Marcel for using said dark forbidden magic, you know, and Laios for potentially covering up the use of magic. The crazy thing about it is that these, you know, dark forbidden arts we probably shouldn't be doing are both in service of saving Fallon, which Laios loves as a sister and Marcel loves as a lover, potentially. Now, here's my thing. I think what would be wild is if Laios and Marcel are under the assumption that they can go and get back up on the surface. And I feel like there's a part of Laios that maybe feels like if they tell people that Fallon's been taken, that they need to go rescue her. Here's what I think in the back of my head. Here's my tinfoil hat theory. The Lord of the island, if he is in fact Laios and Fallon's dad, what if they tell him they need to go get, what if Laios goes to him in private, makes this plea and is like, we need these people to come help. We need to go rescue my sister, your daughter. And what if the Lord of the Island's like, or not? I don't know. I get that vibe that this is leading to something where Laios believes that they're going to go get back up and set all this up and there's going to be a hitch in the plan. I don't know. I just get vibes from the dad, and I could be totally wrong about this. We'll let the show tell us. But I get vibes from the dad, like him sending her off to the magic school, of her like learning magic to channel all this energy that she has, all this power that she has, her being sent. I get the vibe that this, if the Lord of the Island is their dad, and again, I could be wrong about this, but I'm just basing it off what we know now, and this is my theory. If he's Lord of the Dungeon, usually parents are kind of like protective of their kids, especially if they are of an important status symbol or role. So if they're like a king or a lord or a noble, then their kids are like heirs to that line, and they're like, we can't possibly have our kids being in danger because the bloodline could be severed. And the fact that he not only let his daughter go off to learn to be a mage, which, as we found out, is kind of a risky profession. And then his son, he let go into the dungeon with the daughter. Both of them, like the heirs to his family line and his succession, both were allowed to go into the dungeon. That's always struck me as kind of weird. Like he was fine with that. Like the dungeon is super sketch and has a lot of dangers and you could die down there. But he was like, oh, go on, kids. I'm Lord of the Island, but you guys do what you want. It struck me as either Laios and Fallon went without asking their dad, or they went to spite him, or he's totally fine with it, which kind of reads as weird. There's something we don't know about Laios' family and their dynamic yet, but I just get this inkling. I just get this like weird sensation that the dad would be like, I don't care if she dies in the dungeon. And Laios would be like, what? And then would go down to save her anyway. I get that vibe from it. And I see like the narrative maybe building that up, because we'll talk about Shuro later on in this, but it's in the back of my mind. I could be totally wrong, and we'll see if the show corrects me, but I just get that vibe. We'll see what happens with it. We'll go from there. But Chilchuck believes that as soon as Laios and Marcel get any hint of where Fallon is, they're going to go after it. They're like bloodhounds on the trail. They're going to go after it. And Chilchuck's like, we got to get back to the surface first before, he's like, let's focus on getting back to the surface and restructuring. But the thing is, the cleaners have already started to work and they've already started to do their magic. Now, here's the thing. Laios sees a hand of the ghost. And it says the magician's eye will be upon you. And it's one of the ghosts giving him a warning that the dragon is coming to find them. So Laios, in his use of magic, is starting to see ghosts and also hear their voices, which is what Fallon was able to do as a, child and as a magic user. Now, what's interesting is that Marcel is also a magic user, but she does not have that same ability to see ghosts. So there's something else with Laios' lineage with Fallon are they somewhat clairvoyant by lineage? Is there something to that? I'd also wouldn't be surprised if their dad, it skips a generation and their dad doesn't have any special, traits with magic or abilities with any of it. And he's just a tall man and that's it. And it kind of skipped a generation. Laios and Fallon have inherited all of it. I wouldn't be surprised with that. If we'll see that, because that seems like I've seen that in literature before. Or in anime before. But I feel like it's interesting that after Laios started learning magic, he starts to hear the ghosts as well. So if that's tapping into a part of him that he didn't know he was able to tap into, I don't know. Or is it from eating the dragon? And now, is it from eating the dragon, but then none of the others can see it or hear it, and they ate the dragon too? So the world building, again, we are on a need to know basis. And he's like, sometimes since I used healing magic, I can see and hear things. Is it because he used healing magic? And then Marcel's like, I don't know if that is true. And then they notice that the dragon's coming. They say the little dragon, so this red dragon must not be too crazy big. And since she's like, we got to get out of here. And she's like, I know where to hide. I love she just grabs Chilchuck and throws him into the wall because she knows that if she wastes time explaining it, it'll take too long and they'll get spotted. So she's like, nope, not going to waste time. Just get in the wall and let's go. Loved it. Loved it. The cleaners are wild. And I love that shot where Marcel looks at Laios and they look at each other and like, you thinking what I'm thinking? You seeing what I'm seeing? Cleaners. Got it. I swear, you could ship Marcel and Laios together and I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't be mad at you. To me, they give off in-law vibes. They give off brother-in-law, sister-in-law vibes. Like, you see what I'm saying? They give off those vibes. But if you told me that you shipped them, I totally get that. I'm not opposed to that at all. I personally like Marcel with Fallon. I think it's canon. I think that Laios and them are like platonic in-laws. Getting it. I love it. And so the way they describe the cleaners, what I love is that they don't actually eat people, but they repair all the things in the dungeon. They look like little tiny roly-poly bugs, but they also look like little slimes, and they just basically clean up everything. And it's so weird. It's like a cross between the slime you would see in a dungeon and roly-polies and maggots. It's kind of like a cross between all three of those, which is really gross, but they do look kind of cute. Would not eat a casing of them. Would not eat a brick of them. Laios is insane. I'm like, did you learn nothing from the parasite? Did you learn nothing from the tentacles? No? Okay. But one thing that I think is really clever about the magic and the world building with the cleaners is the fact that it makes a lot of sense and kind of frees up the magician to move around and do whatever he wants. Because if you think about it, if the magician had to go to every spot in the dungeon where things had been wrecked, people had been killed, monsters had been slain, and just cleaned it up, then that would take so much time. When would the magician do anything? Because all that stuff's happening all the time. There are brawls with the orcs. There are kelpies being killed. Like, everything is happening all at once. So how could the magician be in 1,000 places at the same time and get anything done? He couldn't. So he does the cleaners that are these little magic creatures that clean up things for him, and then he doesn't have to worry about it. And it's kind of like just letting off a billion microscopic Roombas and then saying, all right, go clean up the mess for me. I'll peace out and I'll come back in 5 hours and see it's all done. It's genius. It really is. Also establishing that the dark elf, the mad mage, is a bit of a neat freak. He likes things to be kept orderly, which we'll talk about the chicken. We'll talk about KFC Fallon later. But yeah, what a cool world building thing. And of course, Laios wouldn't eat them. He's like, well, they're not monsters and they're not harmful. But what I like is Cinchi being like, oh, they are harmful. He's like, the suckers often nibble on my tent. And I love he's trying to sweep the way because the tent isn't supposed to be there. The tent is an object that's in the way. And so they're trying to get rid of it. And since she's like, no, that's my tent. They ate the remains of the dragon and the rest of the explosion. They show up when the dungeon is damaged and they prevent it from collapsing. That makes so much sense because I had been wondering in the back of my head as we've been going through this, I was like, we have all these levels of the dungeon and there are lakes and caverns and things that you would think if the wrong thing happened, they would all just collapse. And after that battle with the dragon, you would think, how did all the collateral damage get fixed? The cleaners. And that answers, it's like, I love the idea that the dungeon is literally this living being. It's this living being that was basically created by the dark elf. I'm just going to call them the dark elf / or the mad mage, one of the two. But yeah, so it was created by this. And then the idea is that it feeds, I would say it feeds off the souls of the people in the dungeon. Honestly, I think that's its food. I mean, you have the ghosts that are stuck down there that have slowly decayed over time. I think the dungeon's eating off of them and the monsters and everything else. And then the cleaners are like eating everything up as well and digesting it. I think that's what it's feeding off of, which is wild. And the dragon in the dungeon literally rebirthed Fallon for us. You know, no big deal. What's interesting is that since she gets so frustrated by it, but I'm like, you honestly should be like enamored by this because it's its own ecosystem. The cleaners help make the dungeon its own ecosystem by cleaning it up and patching it back up. I mean, I'm sure that it's just because there's magic involved, but I would have thought since she would be more onto the cycle of life that's happening here. And they're like, what would the dungeon eat? Well, you all. And so I like that Chilchek's like, well, thank God the bloodstains are gone and we can move forward from here and get to the stairs. We finally get to some stairs to get out of here. And I love Laios being like, oh, his face whenever Laios like pops into frame and they're like, finally we have a way out. And he's like, well, how about we start preparing? And Laios is like, ah, yes. He's like, let's do it. Laios looks so hilariously kind of creepy but cute at the same time in this frame with Senshi. And then Marcel's like, oh, you mean the frog suits? But no, they didn't mean the frog suits. They meant cooking up the dryad into more food. I love that they're like, there's no more tentacles. I love Marcel was trying to be prepared and she ended up embarrassing herself. And they're like, oh, you really like the frog suit? She's like, no. I also love that the people with Shuro's party thought that they were literally monsters disguised as humans. Well, symbolically, depending on how you think of it after this episode. I'm going to save what I want to say for when they show up because the one woman says a phrase that I was like, oh, that could come back later and we'll just see about that. But yeah, so we have this leftover, we have leftover stuff to make this. So we have barley, or the grain from the third floor. And then we have the cockatrice meat, which is pretty much chicken, essentially. Although I used sausage last time, but you could use chicken. And then we have like the leaves of the mandrake. We got the pumpkin from there. And you just basically mix it all together and saute them. And then you scoop out part in, I guess you'd make it like a casserole tin. That you would hollow it out and put the mixture in there. And then you'd put egg over the top to cook. That giant like snake egg from the cockatrice. It's a snake egg and it's like not hard. It's also huge like an ostrich egg. Also, man, price of eggs these days. Since you got a gold mine on your shoulders there, sir. Careful with that. But yeah, stone-baked cockatrice chicken with egg sauce. See, that doesn't look hard to make. We could do that. We could make that. That seems doable. We could do that this week or next week or a week where we don't have food. We could do that. That's fine. And so I like that Marcel asks, she's like, if I had stayed in a stone statue, would they have cooked this in between my legs? Great. The humor in this show is so dry sometimes, and I live for it. And then he's like, oh, I made a brick using the dungeon cleaners. I love that Marcel and Chilchek are like, we will be having no part of that. That sounds terrifying. I love since she did it though to try to appease to Laios and like satisfy his curiosity of what they would taste like. But then when he describes it, he's like, he's like, what does he say? It's like a mixture between dirt and caterpillar. Yeah, a magical blend of green caterpillar, iron, dirt, and lemon, which is basically like things that are dirty and then a bug and then like lemon, like I think of pine sol or something clean. That sounds disgusting. No, thank you, sir. I like that they're like, you're just trying to describe it to make it sound better. So he's like, well, maybe, and they posit the idea that maybe eating the dungeon monsters could cause him to hallucinate, but I think it's more than that. I think that it's something specific to Laios and Fallon and not everybody else, because everybody there has been eating the dungeon monsters, but Chilchuck's not getting hallucinations. And I don't know if it's just the magic, because Marcel's not getting hallucinations. And it's not just the food or the prep, because Senchi's not getting hallucinations. So I feel like, considering the only ones who we've seen get it so far are Laios and Fallon, I feel like it's specific to their bloodline maybe. And maybe the Lord of the Island knows something about that and isn't telling us, or they all are in on something and Laios and Fallon don't know about it. I don't know. But anyway, our crew shows up. I'm so glad we're all here. Although Laios and them are right, it is a huge party. There is lots of people, and in the dungeon, kind of the bigger the party, the more opportunities they are for y'all to get ambushed, which does not bode well, especially with this huge party here. Although if you need an army to go find Fallon, well, this is the makings of one. So they say they need to go back to the town and see the doctor. And he's like, a doctor? He's like, do you think it's some kind of illness? And so Laios confirmed, not a doctor goer. So poor Laios. But then this ability. So this ability of this monster that looks like a drawing, like a Japanese drawing of a demon. I wonder if it's Tade's power that does that. Because it wraps him up suddenly. It distracts him. Him being wrapped up by the spider demon is really hilarious. The way they animated that. They're like, is this a hallucination? And they're like, nope. They're like, are you guys seeing this? And they're like, yep, we see it. So then we have all of these characters of Shuro's party. And they're like, we're under attack. Senshi being like, death gripped by Tade. Tade's thighs, girl. Watermelon smashing thighs right in front of us. Girl did not come to play. She's so sweet, though. I love her. I love her already. But yeah, and then they're like, oh, you're not a frog. You're an elf. And it's like, oh. They're like, these horns are just decorations on a helmet. And they're like, a child? I love that they confused Chilchuck as a child. He's like, I'll kill all of you. And then myself. Also, I love the three women in Shuro's party have the two moles, like the classic two anime moles, but they're on different parts of their body. It's so cute. He's like, I'm gonna die. And then Laios by this point is just literally like a mummy, which is kind of hilarious. I love her. Like, we have the cat ninja, which we'll talk about in a second. But I love the main woman with the owl sleeves that she has, which is, just from a shipping perspective, Shuro, you're chasing the wrong chicken lady. You shouldn't be chasing Fallon. You should be going after hot MILF owl woman instead that makes you onigiri. I'm just saying. So there are similarities there. But she's like, some monsters disguise themselves as human. We should kill one to see if they'll reveal their true colors. So the idea of monsters disguising as humans. I mean, that's kind of the theme of the dungeon in a way, and kind of the series, because Laios and them have started talking from day one that they're all monsters. It's just a food pyramid, and who's on top, who's eating who. It's part of an ecosystem, and you can't really think that you are any better than any other species because y'all are monsters in the end, trying to be on top. But I also thought of the fact that, so Fallon was resurrected using black magic. So already she is painted as a monster just from that fact alone. But then you talk about her being resurrected from the blood and flesh of the red dragon. She's technically the new red dragon, which makes her a monster. And then if anybody sees, we'll talk about Shuro in a bit, but if anybody outside of this party sees Fallon as this giant ass chicken monster, they're going to think she's a monster and try to kill her. I mean, especially if she has the crazy eyes and is bleeding and has feathers and is as big as she is in the ED there. They're going to think she's a monster and try to kill her. And do I think Laios and Marcel would accept her as she is? Of course, because they love her. Do I think anybody else would? That's the question that we're going to have to ask. We'll talk about Shuro in that question here in a little bit. But yeah, so when she said that, I was like, ooh, we're getting into some stuff here. I do like her a lot. And then Laios gets brought back by Shuro. Shuro, his voice is so sexy. I'm sorry, but Shuro's voice, Toshiro's voice, it's so hot. He has such a hot voice. He has so much ennui, so much angst in his voice. I'm like, sir. Also, he is a great representation now of why crushes in anime during these types of stories are maybe perhaps a bad thing. So, Shuro, for right now, has a crush on Fallon. Does it seem very one-sided? Yeah. Yeah, it does. I'm like, Fallon at no point after her resurrection asked about Shuro. If Fallon was head over heels for Shuro, she would have been asking Marcel during their bath scene, hey, what about Shuro and the rest of the party? Girl didn't care. And you could say and argue that she had just been resurrected, so she wasn't thinking properly. But if she really loved him, I think she would have asked. And she didn't ask at all. So that was all the proof I needed in that episode to go, okay, this is one-sided. It's an unrequited love that Shuro has for her. And that's not a problem, but I definitely feel like at first I thought Shuro's crush on her would be a big handicap for him because he's not eating in this episode. He's very one-sided in his decisions. It's all for her and everything. But man, does Laios use that against him. Holy shit. And Kabru was practically, I don't want to get vulgar in this discussion, but Kabru was eating it up. Kabru was having a time with this. We'll get to that. But so Shuro shows up. I really like Shuro's character. Don't get me wrong. I love his character. I think his crush on her is really adorable. I think it's going to be a very big handicap for him. And I guess we might as well talk about it now. Do we think he's going to still have the same crush on her when he sees her as a chicken? I don't know. Will he see her as a monster? Here's the thing. Now that the cat's out of the bag and Laios has said that they resurrected Fallon with black magic and that through the red dragon, is Shuro going to see her and think that it's not her anymore, that she's just this monster and he won't care about her anymore? That seems really cruel. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Now, if he still loved her, that would be great and that would be very beneficial to help Laios and Marcel get her back. But there's another part of me that also wants her to kind of just reject him because it's kind of like, dude, you just need to like since she talks about moving on, I'm like, Shuro, you need to kind of see the writing on the wall and maybe move on. But he can't see the writing on the wall because she's right now on display with Colonel Sanders Mage right now. So I just feel for Shuro. I really do. But we'll get more into him in a second. So yeah, I love Laios just bouncing around Shuro. Shuro is way too serious for this group. This group arguably needs someone like Shuro to levy them and to like bring a little bit of balance to their insanity and chaos, but he is way too straight-laced for this crowd. He needs to loosen up and loosen them laces a little bit, or I think he might crack under all this pressure. But we'll talk about that. So yeah, and he's like, oh, I'm glad to see you're doing well, as he's gaunt and looks like he hasn't slept in 3 weeks. Laios, my dude. So he's like, oh, let me introduce you. This is Senshi. And he's like, this is Shuro from our foreigner party. I like that they're all like, Shuro. And we find out his name is Toshiro. So his actual name is Toshiro, and they just call him Shuro. I love the woman in the back is just glaring at Laios with his hands on him. I love it. And they're like, Toshiro, which is cute. So yeah, and he's like, here, eat this brick off the ground. He's like, we're having a meal. And then he's like, oh, wow, there's a lot of us. And a lot of us is a problem. I'm surprised when he saw the kobold, he didn't just spring towards him at full speed. But the moment I saw Kabru in the middle of the group, locking eyes, I was like, oh, is this a moment? Is this going to be a moment? Y'all, this episode did not let me down. This episode enabled me so much. Because they're like, oh, Kabru, it's him. Kabru looks like he's just seen everything he needs. And Kabru is devious. Kabru is devious. I love it. But he is so devious. And he's like, oh, well, I'm just going to walk right up, introduce myself. And he's like, oh, nice to meet you. And Laios is like, hi. Also the height difference. Also the height difference between Kabru and Laios. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing out facts. He's like, oh, you're Laios. He's like, oh, yeah, sure. He's like, nice to meet you. Now, here's the thing. Kabru, as we find out, is maybe a sociopath. But he also judges people and is a very good read on people, whether they're being truthful, whether they're lying, whether they're being sincere. And when he looks at Laios and Laios is like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, it is innocent enough that I think Kabru read between the lines and was like, you don't know me. You don't remember me. And I mean, I kept waiting for Laios to remember the kobold from the Kelpie and the Fishman, but he hasn't yet. And he's like, oh, and he just kind of stares with these kind of like dead eyes for a second at Laios, like he's reading him up and down. Chilchuck looks really happy to see Shuro, though, Chilchuck is probably happy to see Shuro because Shuro is an anchor to this insanity. Marcel enables it. Marcel is an enabler of chaos. She doesn't want to believe it. She doesn't want to let you know that. But Girl used ancient magic to bring her lesbian love back. Girl is an enabler of chaos. Since she is an enabler of chaos, Laios is the chaos. And Chilchuck's like, I need some anchorage. I need some sanity. And Shuro does seem like a genuinely straight-laced character. So Chilchuck's like, please, sir, will you stay with us and add some levity to this madness? So then Reen is like, Kabru, it's them. They're the ones that stole our stuff, right? They stole all of our stuff. Why aren't we doing anything? And Kabru's like, I'm going to wait it out. He's like, I'm not going to do anything right now. And she's like, well, what did we come all the way here for? And he's like, well, I love that he kind of looks at her disappointed. Kabru has this way where his character can put on this fake smile and be like, hey guys, everything's great. And he looks over to her like, bitch, why are you questioning me? Like just in a heartbeat. Like his eyes are so expressive. I love it. But he looks at her and she kind of like flinches back at him the way he looks so coldly. And then he smiles and he's like, I just want to meet them. I just want to know who they are. He's like, asking them about the treasure is not going to help. He's like, he didn't even look guilty when he saw us. So the chances are either he doesn't remember us, we got it wrong, or the treasure itself was a trap. But we can't know for sure. And he gave nothing away. Could be all three things. And she's like, well, then why'd we come here? And he's like, oh, no. He's like, don't be hasty. He's like, I'm here for the tea, girl. I'm here for the drama. Don't let me not have my drama. And he's like, don't you want to find out how they managed to get here and what they plan to do in the future? He's like, I'm a gossipy bitch and I got to know all the tea, honey. So just sit down, let Kabru find out his tea, let him find out his drama, let him find out his exposition, and then we'll go. Oh my God. I love it. So they're like, so you guys have basically just gone around in circles. And Chilchuck's like, well, we need to get out of there. And he's like, Shuro. And so everybody kind of looks over and sees Shuro's party that they're with. I like Tate's yawning like I'm over it. And then Chilchuck, because they're all women, supposedly. I'm assuming the cat ninja is as well. He's like, you lech, you're with a party of girls. Like he's just trying to be like Chilchuck gets to be chaotic frat bro with Shuro. And Shuro's like, he's like, are they the connections you mentioned? He's like, leave me alone. And he's like, they're just retainers. He's like, they're quite skilled though. He's like, and then he apologizes, which poor Shuro. He's so sweet. I do like Shuro's character a lot. He's like, I thought this was the best way to go back in the dungeon and find her. And they all kind of look at each other like, well, we didn't wait on you, so it's fine. It's okay. And then they're like, should we tell him? And Laios is like, no, it's fine. Everything worked out. And he's like, well, I'm surprised you went back into the dungeon after that. Wasn't it a little rash? And Laios and Marcel are like, us? Rash? When have we ever been rash and made decisions out, just on impulse? Why would we do that? He's like, what would you have done if someone got hurt again? And Laios is like, well, Marcel is a mage. I mean, she kept us safe last time. And she's like, just so you know, the four of us were strong enough to defeat a red dragon. Now, Shuro immediately freaks out at that because the red dragon is what he knows ate Fallon. And he's like, well, what about Fallon? You defeated the red dragon. What about her? The woman that makes the onigiri, and we'll get her name in a minute because I forget it, is like, did you really defeat a red dragon? Are you being truthful? Kabru is like, a red dragon? You beat it? Like, he is just like instantly like, I want to fight alongside you and kill more red dragons. So then Shuro's like, what about Fallon? What about her? And then he nearly faints from freaking out. And she's like, oh, master. She's like, you need to get some sleep. This is why I feel like some writers leave the romance out until the very end. Because Shuro is like a classic case of that. Like, here's the thing. I think the difference between the crush and Marcel's genuine love is that Marcel is not overworked about Fallon because she trusts that Fallon is strong and that she knows she's strong. And Marcel knows that Fallon will be able to protect herself and she'll be okay. We want to rescue her, obviously, from the Mad Mage because obvious reasons, but she understands Fallon's strength, accepts it, believes in it. Shuro has this crush on Fallon, but he very much treats it as Fallon is the damsel in distress that needs to be rescued by her knight in shining armor, and Shuro is the knight in shining armor to rescue her. Marcel's like, bitch, I have dark magic. We're fine. Like, you know, so I feel like Shuro is this archetype, especially since the mangaka is a woman. I feel like that Shuro is this archetype of like, he thinks he's going to be the man with the shining armor on the white horse to go rescue Fallon. And then he's going to show up and she's a giant chicken dragon. And then he's going to be sorely mistaken. It's going to be like in Shrek when he goes to the castle, except instead of Fiona, it's going to be the dragon, you know? So I'm going to be very curious to see how this pans out for his character, but I don't think it's going to end well for Shuro, but I think Shuro is going to suffer along the way at our enjoyment, and I feel for him already. So the woman's like, you need to eat something, and Laios is like, wow, why are you pushing yourself? And Chilchuk's like, you didn't notice that he's so gaunt? And Laios is like, well, you should get, I love he says, you should get some food and sleep, you know? Laios is such a golden retriever, like just the most. And he's like, no, I don't have time for that. I need to go find Fallon. And I love that at this point, Laios sits him down and basically explains what Senshi had to explain to them, being like, the reason you guys didn't, succeed the first time is partially because you all were so weak. You need food, you need sleep, you need energy to be at your A game. If you don't have those things, it's not going to work out. And I love that Laios is passing on what he learned to Shuro. And he's like, look, I'll tell you what's happening. I'll catch you all up, but you got to eat first. And then he's like, okay. And so Maizuru, I love that he asks Maizuru to make the food because that's the food that he loves the most. And her food is made with love. And that's why he enjoys it. We'll talk about that ship here in a second. But so we have Maizuru. Maizuru, who is the owl woman, love her design. She's kind of funny. She reminds me of Chi-Chi from Dragon Ball Z, if that makes sense. She's like really feminine, and she's very feminine and very traditional and just kind of like is very sincere and loving, but there's also this kind of like crabby side to her. She reminds me of Chi-Chi from Dragon Ball Z, which is really cute. And then she's like, I will prepare a meal. And she's so excited to do that. So then we have Tade, who is the ogre. I love Tade. Or, yeah, I guess, is she the ogre? She looks like that. Yeah. So it's like Tade fetched some water, and she's like, I'm on it. And then we have Hien and Benichi Dori, who, those ladies have been off in some corridors by themselves, I am sure. And they are together. So Hien and, Benichi Dori, unless they're sisters. Maybe they're sisters, and then I'll feel bad for saying that. Maybe they're sisters. They do have the moles. They're probably all related. I feel bad for saying that. And then there is Asebi. Asebi is the cat, because I think that's their little ears sticking out. They're the cat ninja, which Maizuru seems to have prejudice against Asebi, because she's like, Asebi, you get to guard the young master. And she's like, I don't want anything strange mixed into the food. Seems a little speciesist, just a wee bit, a little bit. But Asebi's like, well, F my drag. So I kind of like if you shipped Senshi with Maizuru, I wouldn't get onto you. I wouldn't get onto you. Two chefs, two cooks in the kitchen. Although you could argue there's too many cooks in the kitchen. That's not gonna work for a ship. But if you ship them together, I was like, I see the flames. I see the flickers. I'm all for it. I also was like, if you shipped Senshi with Tade, two strong people, I ship that too. I see it. I'm okay with that. If you shipped, what's her face? She's the other half foot, the one that's with Cobalt. If you shipped her with Tade, because she's on top of Tade's shoulders, I would not blame you as well. Although Cobalt looks a little bit kind of concerned about her being up on Tade's shoulders. So, maybe if you want that to be a love triangle, we can make that a love triangle. There was so much shipping in this moment. I was just like, yes, 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 possibilities. The harbor is getting filled up. I'm great. And Laios makes an observation that it's not safe with all these people in one area. Now, that's curious to me because if you're going up to get supplies and backup, how much backup are you going to get if you think this is too much or is already a lot in the dungeon? So then he suggests that they split up into groups of 3. And so we have Reen and, what do they say there? We have, I always forget his name. So they're like, okay, Reen. Oh, they just call him Dwarf, but he has a name. And Frog Woman. And they're like, anybody who can use magic, put up a barrier. So he's a mage too. Okay. So the monsters don't disturb them while they eat. And Marcel's like, okay. I like that the dwarf is like, come on, let's work together. It'll be all right. And Reen's just like, which I'm like, Reen and Marcel are so similar to me that I think they'll either get along by the end of this or they'll hate each other. I don't think there's any in between, right? So then Laios, of course, is like, sure, let's go over here. And who just casually, like, Laios, like, come on, sure, I'll help you in. And then Kabru comes up and goes, hey, man, I'll help too. He barely has his arm. He has his arm barely on Shuro's shoulder. He's like, oh, I'll help you get in too. Bitch, you just went into eavesdrop and joined that conversation to get the tea. I know exactly what you're doing. Oh my God, I could not believe it. And then Chilchuck's like, well, what do I do? He's like, who's more dangerous if left alone? And he's like, probably Marcel is fine. And he thinks of Laios just babbling nonstop to Shuro about the monsters and Shuro being like, just cowering in fear. But then he thinks of Senshi and being like the monsters and cooking. And I love that he's like, he imagines if Shuro is alone with Laios, they'll be fine. At the most, it'll just be annoying. But if Maizuru is alone with Senshi, she could fight him. And Chilchuck's like, then none of us will eat. So he's like, no, I need to go help Senshi. Which, again, if you are a Senshi and Chilchuck shipper, just make it all work. Make it all work. Getting all the ships lined up, right? All the ships lined up. So yeah, everybody's looking. I do like the 3 mages working together. That's really cool. And then meanwhile, Maizuru looks so devious with the cooking, with like the flames and the light casting a shadow on her face. I love it. And then the 2 over there, Heian and Benichidori are both like, girl. And Chilchuck's like, what do I do? Also, Tade is super cute. I don't ship Chilchuck and Tade, but she's super cute. I like Tade a lot. When Chilchuck got onto Maizuru for being like, hey, you're overdoing it, I wanted to say in the reaction, because she was blowing into the bamboo pipe, my brain immediately went for her to turn around and go, I'll blow you. And then I realized that was not appropriate. So if you ship Chilchuck and Maizuru, there you go. There's ships for everybody in this episode. You could ship everybody with anybody, and it'd be great. And she's like, after this meal, I must make him take a bath. And she's like, here? It's like, is Chilchuck and Shuro going to be a ship? I'm up for everything. I'm up for all ships in this series. Let's just do it all. So Laios gets Shuro to sit down, and Shuro wants to know what happens. And so Laios starts to go from the beginning, and Shuro's like, just give me the abridged, condensed version. Give me the half an episode recap. And Laios is like, okay. You want me to cut to the chase? We defeated the Red Dragon, retrieved Fallon, and revived her. Didn't say how, but it said revived her. And on our way back, we were attacked by a lunatic magician, and we lost her. That seemed like enough to be said, and there was nothing more we could do on our own, so we decided to go back to the surface and ask for backup. That's not a lie! That is the truth. He's like, but we crossed paths with you, Shuro, so that's great. And he's like, will you help us out? And Shuro, meanwhile, his eyes like cross the opposite direction, like he's freaking out. And Kabru's like, what are we doing? And Kabru's like, I want to ask questions. Is this a Q&A? Can I inquire into the exposition? Can I ask the author a question? And Laios is like, oh, sure. The lunatic magician. He's like, how do you know that he's the one in the dungeon that created it? Nobody really knows about him, and everybody who's seen him has never returned. And it's like, and Laios is like, oh, how we know it's him? Well, he sounded and acted like it, which is not a lie. Not a lie. But Kabru wants to pry because he's sensing there's something else there. And he's like, well, how'd you manage to escape and live to tell the tale when no one else has? And Laios is like, oh, well, it was thanks to Marcel. And it's like, well, how did Marcel and them get out of it, right? And then Kabru's like, the mage in our party protected us. And Kabru's like, how? And the close-up on Kabru's eyes in that moment where he's like, how'd she protect you? Like, he is on the verge of cracking a code. He's connecting dots. He's asking all the questions. He's figuring it out. He is going to Nancy Drew this shit until Laios confesses, and he knows Laios is about to tell him, and he's like, how? And Laios is like, we just met. And he's like, well, I'm not a big magician, so I'm not really sure. Again, not a total lie, because Laios doesn't know magic and how it works. And Kabru's like, oh, I see. You're not going to tell me the full truth. And then Shuro asks, he's like, well, I love that he says, he like hesitates there and waits. And then he asks, why were you munching on a brick? Like, he wants to ask about Fallon. Is she okay? Was she alive? What was going on? And then Laios is like, oh, well. He's like, oh, it's not what you think. That wasn't a brick. It was made from part of the wall made of the dungeon cleaners. We left all our food behind. I'm surprised Shuro had this reaction of being terrified that they ate things in the dungeon. Again, something that also tells me that Shuro and Fallon are not compatible is that, and again, this is not really a full-fledged reason, but this is just my thoughts. When Fallon found out about them eating the dungeon monsters, she was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. And granted, Marcel and Shuro did have the same reaction upon initially hearing this, so I can't really base anything off of that. I'm going to change my mind. I don't think that really matters because Marcel and Shuro did have the initial first reaction of being horrified that they ate the dungeon monsters. He's like, we left all of our food money behind, so to get down the dungeon faster, we fed monsters the way down. And Kabru is like, oh. And I love Laios. I love that little image of Laios laughing. Meanwhile, Asebi's in the corner listening to all of this. But I love Laios just like, ha ha ha, isn't that funny? Us eating monsters the whole way. Oh my God, what? Who does that? Us? I love that Kabru is like, that is hilarious. And he's like, well, what was the tastiest thing you've eaten so far? And he's like, oh, well, you want to know? He's like, oh, it's a tough one. Probably the red dragon. I love that Shuro's horrified at the fact that they've ate things, possibly from another dimension, possibly created by the Dark Mage, just monsters in the dungeon. But Kabru's like, what's the best thing you ate so far? Let me know. I just like, I love it. I love it. I love every moment of this, all this. And Laios like, oh, you asking me what was the best dish. Oh my gosh. Now, when he says the red dragon, they're like, you ate the red dragon that ate your sister. And then Shuro's like, what if it absorbed part of Fallon? And it's like, well, funny you should say that. I didn't want to connect the possibility of cannibalism when we were talking about Fallon eating the red dragon because she was technically revived from the red dragon. So she did kind of like have like, is she bleeding out of her eyes because she ate herself? Is that part of the cannibalism? Is it the effects of the cannibalism? But Shuro's horror that they ate the monsters in the dungeon, including the red dragon that ate Fallon, is understandable. And we've just kind of taken for granted and been like, oh, that's just dungeon life. And Shuro's like, this is actually kind of mortifying. And he's like, yeah. And they're like, the living armor, are there any edible parts? I like that the cleaners were trying to kill the living armor. Oh, I don't like it, but I thought that was interesting because I wasn't expecting it. And he's like, oh no, they're trying to eat Kinsuke. And he's like, you just can't be too careful. And Kabru's face, that smile and his intense eyes watching Laios, he is Edward Cullen. He's just like Edward Cullen sitting there watching like Laios like freaking Bella Swan. So many things. He's like, oh, by the way, if you're interested in monster cuisine, I'd be happy to treat you anytime. He offered to take Kabru on a date. Let's get this out there. He's like, I'll take you out to eat anytime. We can just the two of us. Y'all, you shouldn't be surprised. Shouldn't be surprised. And he's like, but the thing about it is, the thing that is so genius is that Laios is offering to do all these nice things for him, and Kabru's like, of course. And on the inside, he's like, oh shit, he's actually gonna do it. Like, enemies to lovers vibes all over Kabru and Laios. Enemies to lovers all over, because I think Kabru doesn't. There's something about Laios and Fallon's past that Kabru hates or doesn't trust or thinks is a problem. And Laios, over the course of this series, I think is gonna win Kabru over. We talked about that dynamic last time back in episode 14. We talked about that dynamic. I fully believe it's a thing. I think that Laios is going to win Kabru over, and it's going to be a spectacle to watch. And I'm here for it. And he's like, shit, he's actually going to take him up. And Shuro's like, oh my God, why am I not surprised? He's like, so after she was revived, was she safe the last time you saw her? And Laios is like, well, yeah. And he's like, well, where'd she go if you lost her? He's like, there's plenty of places to hide, but most of them are orc base camps. And then at first when Laios says, oh, you don't have to worry about them, Kabru's like, did you eat the orcs? And him and Shuro both are like, what? And he's like, oh, no. He's like, oh no. Because I love that Kabru's like, what do they taste like? Like Kabru would be amazing at improv because he's like a yes and. He's like, yes and? He's like, because Laios goes, oh, the orcs aren't a problem. And Kabru's like, because you ate them, what do they taste like? And he's like, oh, no, that's not it. Living for their interactions. He's like, it's a long story, but we're cooperating with them now. And Shuro's just like, okay. He's like, really? And Kabru's like, cooperating with them. And then in his head, he's like, has he forgotten that killing them is our duty as adventurers? So, we don't know a lot about duty as adventurers. We don't know a lot about that, honestly. That's something that this show has not really discussed because it hasn't really come up. It's always been like, oh, there's this dungeon, there's treasure. And the treasure in the dungeon alone, regardless of the idea of becoming the mage and controlling the kingdom, the treasure in the dungeon alone is worth people going down there and seeking it out. The sanctuary in the dungeon away from the rest of the above ground world is reason enough for people to go there and hang out. But now we're finding out that your duty as an adventurer is to kill the orcs. If Laios is indeed an adventurer, he has conveniently failed to even remotely seem interested in that goal. So again, one of the things that Laios has been asked for several points in this series is, why are you here? What is the point of you being in the dungeon? It's not to kill the orcs and eradicate them. Nope. It's not to become the mage that controls the kingdom. Laios don't give a shit about the mage. I mean, he does more now because of Fallon, but doesn't really care about him. It's not necessarily to preserve the ecosystem because because Laios didn't really even know about that, right? It's not to discover ancient magic like Marcel wants to because he didn't even know about that either. And for Chilchuck, it's not just to make money because they're not really making money and Laios is leading him on the quests. So up until the quest was to save Fallon, why was he there? What was the point? Was it just to explore the dungeon and see what it was out of just curiosity? Or what was the reasoning? I feel like at some point in this series, we have to go back to that first time they went into the dungeon or the lead up to going into the dungeon to find the answer to what Kabru is asking. Because Kabru's like, I thought you were down here on a mission, but instead you're not going through with the mission. So what's the deal? Like, I feel like we're supposed to question that as well. I don't think Laios has forgotten. I just don't think he ever cared about that. He's like, oh, so about the whereabouts. She might be somewhere lower than this level. She could have been taken there. And Shuro, of course, is like, shit, what? This level is terrifying. Why would she be lower than that? What would be the reason? People don't go lower than this level. And he's like, why was she taken? And Laios is like, well, Do I tell him that Fallon was resurrected by the red dragon and the mage, might have taken her away because the mage is, made the dragon and thinks that she's like his property? Do I say that? Like, he's like, And he's like, is it safe to tell Shuro? I like at first Laios' answer isn't necessarily manipulative. It's that he doesn't know if he should tell Shuro or not. But he thinks it might be, so he asks the others to leave. He's like, would you mind if I talk to him alone? Although, and Kabru's like, sure, I'll step out. He says he couldn't hear them, but I was like, how could he not hear them? They weren't that far away. But the other one, Asebi, has the cat ears and could definitely hear. And he's like, so what's the deal? Meanwhile, before we have the freak out moment, we have Senshi talking with Maizuru, and he's like, sometimes you just need something to warm your belly. And a meal should be more than just filling the stomach. So she says, the young master was often sick as a child, and he always had a hearty appetite for whatever I made him. So at first, I really wanted to ship Shuro and Maizuru, and I still kind of do, but she seems a lot older than him. So then I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. Now, granted, he's an adult now, but there is like a component. I don't know how I feel about ships where the one person in the couple was like a full-blown adult and the other was a child. That always strikes me as weird, and I just can't get over it because I know a couple that's like that in real life where the guy started wanting to date the girl when she was like 16 and he was like in his mid-20s, and it was creepy, and now they're married and like he's in his 30s and she's in her 20s, and it's like, I guess they're happy, but it just weirds me out. And in fiction, it doesn't bother me nearly as much, but it's always kind of like is this morally okay? If she's in her like 20s and he was like 10, now he's in his 20s and she's in her like 30s. I'm like, is that okay? I don't know. But I mean, if he later on was like, she never did anything to him. She just made him food and was nice to him. If it developed into like a romance, I've read BL like it, so why not? But I really think that, she's like, this is the first time he's ever made a selfish request to add, to go find there's someone I want to save. And she's like, he's infatuated with a northern girl on his training journey. And so then how do I convince him to move on? And since she's like, do you want him to move on? That's what I like, is that she's like, how do I convince him to move on, to get away from Fallon? And since she asking her that question is kind of like, well, why do you care if he moves on? Like, what's wrong with him loving Fallon unless you have an ulterior motive? And she says, well, I've been tasked by the Lord to care for the young master. I can't let my emotions dictate my actions. And he's like, then why are you doing what you're doing? If you have preserved foods, you don't need to bother with cooking. And she's just like, what? And he's like, I know why he had an appetite for your cooking only, because of what you put into them, which is love. So since she's onto it, since she's out here matchmaking, he's like, you like him, and that's why you want him to move on, so that you can be with him. Since she's like, I see how this is. And she's like, what? So since she, Mr. Cupid over here, and I love that she just kind of blinks and then she laughs, and she's like, what is that supposed to mean? It's like, you trying to be clever? And she says, but yes, she says it's a little too late now. She's like, depending on how things turn out, I could maybe speak on his behalf. So then we have Sugiyoshi Nakamoto. And then we have Toshisugu Nakamoto. And then we have now Toshiro Nakamoto. Like, they're all the lords of that land. And it says Faliro Nakamoto. Oh my god. Which I'm guessing is supposed to be like their love child. Like, it's supposed to be like their love child there, which looks absolutely terrifying. And they're like, it's using different art materials. I don't think that's likely just yet. Yeah, I love that they did this very creepy love child between Fallon and Shuro. It's kind of like when you play The Sims 2. When I was a kid. Okay, what this reminds me of is when I was in high school, The Sims 2 was out. That's how old I am. Get over it. No. No. But anyway, we played The Sims 2, and my friends in high school and our thing to do would be like, we would take couples in the school and we'd make them in Sims 2 and then combine them and show what their children would look like. And I legit had a friend that broke up with her boyfriend because we put them together in Sims 2 and she said the children were too ugly. We were 16-year-old little bitches is what we were. But yeah, she legit dumped a man because she's like, our Sims 2 babies are hideous. This will not work. I don't know. I feel like this is that Sims 2 moment where it's like, I don't know. So Maizuru believes that there's just, Maizuru believes that there's no chance for her because she's just, taking care of Shuro. He can't, be with the servant lady. But that also reinforces the idea that Fallon and Laios are from a bit more of a noble background, because if she thinks there's a possibility of Shuro getting with Fallon, then that would suggest that Fallon's not just some northern country girl, right? So we believe. But that image is honestly terrifying. Let's not have that happen. Yeah. And she's like, well, this'll do. I like the fact that she's like, oh, there's no chance for me and Shuro. None at all. I kind of want there to be for them. I want that for her. And also, I feel for Shuro because I don't see him and Fallon as being end game. I just don't. But then they make the Eastern meal. Again, I think we can make this. This seems right. But then Asebi is listening in the other room. And meanwhile, Shuro is strangling Laios. And I like that immediately Maizuru has the talisman out ready to defend him. I love it. And Kabru's like, we don't know, but Asebi was listening. This man used black magic to revive a woman using monster flesh. And Kabru's like, oh, well, I love it. And then, of course, Maizuru's like, black magic. And Kabru's like, this just got juicier than I ever could have imagined. Now, Shuro says, how could you? Do you realize what you've done? And Laios is like, well, I mean, the options were don't revive my sister or revive my sister. And guess what we chose? He's like, anyone involved with black magic, no matter their motives or degree of magic, is a serious criminal. Again, we were on a need-to-know basis with black magic. Guess what we just found out? That if you use black magic, you are a criminal. Laios and Marcel are Malibu's most wanted. And Laios does not seem concerned. They're locked up in the dark until they die, and even their corpses never return. If the elves of the West find out, who knows what will happen to her. And he ain't talking about Marcel. I don't think Shuro cares about Marcel. I think Shuro's talking about Fallon. He's like, Marcel, you and Marcel will be locked up forever. And then if the elves find out about Fallon, what do you think they're going to do to Fallon? When they find out she's been brought back by black magic, they'll put her down, probably. And I'm like, oh my God. So we just got like another giant conflict on top of the conflict. And then Laios is like, well, if word gets out of this dungeon. When he said that, I was like, holy shit, are you freaking kidding me? I was like, oh, we're going that way. We're going that way. Okay, so Laios is like, if you say anything, bitch, if you don't, we don't have to worry about this. If y'all keep your trap shut and not mention black magic, we'll be hunky-dory, won't we? So basically, they're like, Laios is like, well, we're only criminals if we get caught. And so he's like, Laios takes Shuro's love for Fallon, and he uses it mother trucking against him. He's like, you're not going to say anything. Because if you do, Fallon's dead. So we're not going to say anything, right? Bitch. Oh my God. I was floored. And I know you're never going to tell anyone about this. I'm like, what about Asebi? What about Kabru? What about Maizuru? The three others in the room, you going to make them take a vow of silence? And the thing is, I think if Shuro told Maizuru to not say anything, Maizuru would not say anything. Asebi's the one I worry about. I think Kabru would keep his mouth shut because Kabru wants to see how this is all going to play out. Asebi's the one I don't trust because I think Asebi would talk because Asebi and Maizuru do not seem on good terms. And yeah, Shuro putting the sword to Laios' neck. My thing is that sure, Laios has put Fallon in danger by bringing her back through black magic with Marcel, but I'm like, Shuro, the options were bring her back or not. So would you rather have had her back or not? And then that adds another stake to Shuro's claim of loving Fallon, being like, would you love her if she was a worm? Would you love her if she was a chicken brought back by dark magic? You know? It's like, he's like, it was the only way. And he wasn't lying. And he's like, you have to understand, Shuro. Meanwhile, Kabru's like, black magic. Kabru is having an orgasm in that armor. Kabru is like, you brought him back with dark magic. You brought her back with dark. Oh my God. You're a criminal. Kabru's like, oh my God, you're a wanted man. I love you 10 times more now. He Lonely Island Jizz in My Pants is playing. While Kabru's. Can we edit that? I might edit that. Oh my God. He's like, this is way worse than I thought. The thing about it is, Kabru reminds me simultaneously of two characters. He reminds me of Maki from Bloom Into You, because Maki's character in that series, without giving much away about the series, you should go check it out. It's a romance. It's fun. He's asexual, which I can relate to. And Maki's character likes to be an observer. He doesn't like to get involved in the romances around him or in the drama around him, but he likes to be this third person observer to like watch it like a play going down. Kabru reminds me so much of Maki because he gets such elation from seeing the drama unfold before him like a damn stage play. So there's that. But Kabru also, when Kabru is smiling and blushing in this moment, being like, this is terrifying and bad, it reminds me of Shizasumi from Given, because Shizuzumi's character is usually kind of stoic and dark and brooding, but when he smiles, that's not a good thing. When he smiles, it's terrifying. And Kabru's like, hell yes. And he's like, what's going to happen now? He's just like, I just can't wait to see what happens with these characters. So, yeah. So we have that going on. And Cinchi shows up with the food, of course. Then we have Fallon. Fallon, who is bleeding, and I don't like that. And she has her eyes look like feral, like a monster's, and she's like Lord Delgal. But yeah, and then her hands are bleeding, and she's like, I have to find him. And she literally is like, the chicken feathers are coming up from, she's like a centaur chicken. She looks like a centaur chicken. She has like the body of a giant chicken. She has the body, let me go back and try to look at that more. Yeah, she has like legs, the body of a giant chicken, and then it like is coming up all through her to her neck. I'm like, is she going to turn into a chicken, or is she just going to keep this centaur body? And why? Dark Elf, why you doing this? Why this happening? I am so curious. What? So we're going to go make something, but I am aghast, y'all. I am just living. And this episode is one of my favorites. Ever since episode 11, I've just been living from week to week, but oh, y'all, I am having the best time of my life with this. If somebody can edit Kabru and him with like the blushy face to the Jizz in My Pants from Lonely Island chorus, you will make my day. You will make my day 1,000 times. I might do it and just I don't know where I would put it, on Discord or something. I might just put it on Discord because that's safe and then you have to worry about copyright and stuff like that. Oh my God. So if you're not sticking around for the cooking segment, that's fine. That's okay. We'll be back for episode 17 next week. But if you are, then stick around. We're going to do that here in a hot second. But what an amazing episode. I am so elated. But let's not waste any more time. I've talked for over an hour about this episode. I love it so much. And we need to go and check out some food, shall we? Well, hello. I'm back, ready to make some onigiri. I am starving. My brosif is with me.
Hey.
And we're going to get started. Also, you don't know this, bro, but we have some questions from Patreon that we're gonna have to work together on today, which is pretty exciting. But I've got all the stuff set out to make onigiri. We're gonna get started. I'm gonna set this to an 8. I didn't know how much rice we were supposed to make. The bag that I got has enough to make 3 cups of rice. So we're just gonna go, I figured each of us deserved a cup of rice. That seems like a lot of rice once it gets going, but if we have extra, we'll just save it. Yeah. Right? So now, my brother is not convinced that this is going to work. He is very skeptical about me being able to make this.
Remember the sauce.
Look, the sauce, you weren't here for the cabbage steaks. I have improved immensely since the cabbage steaks. Or since the sauce. The sauce is, oh, RIP sauce. We're not gonna worry about the sauce. We're in the onigiri mode now. Y'all will have to inform him how great the cabbage steaks turned out because he wasn't here for that magical moment. I've improved a lot, thank you, I feel. So I did some research. Now this is the one thing that I don't necessarily have a full-blown recipe for because I've made onigiri before, so I kind of know the way to make it. My brother looks so skeptical. So this is our first time going freelance on the recipes for Dungeon Meshi this week, but I feel like this is an easy one to do. Now, in the Eastern meal of episode 16, there were fish, but we've already made fish before, so we've done that. There was also miso soup. I'm not a big fan of miso soup. Bro, are you a fan of miso soup? I'm just not a tofu person. I'm legit a carnivore, so tofu and miso soup can sometimes be very salty, and I'm not a huge salty person. So we're gonna skip on the miso soup, and we're just gonna make the onigiri today. So the first thing they called for is for every cup of rice, you have 2 cups of water. So we have 4 cups of water that we're gonna go pour into our pot. I got a bigger pot than normal because I thought, well, if I get a smaller pot and then the rice expands and goes, pluh, I don't wanna like explode the pot with rice. We're gonna be careful in that. It also said to have a teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna measure that out. That feels like a teaspoon. We're guesstimating a lot today. It's a fun experiment. And then we're gonna have the rice we're using. Here's the deal. Most rice that you will find, at least in Midwestern American grocery stores, are long grain rice, like your brown rice, your long grain, and that rice is good, but if you research any online, they will tell you long grain rice is not good for sushi, and if you've ever had sushi before, you'll probably notice the sushi grains are really short and really small, and I'm guessing my deduction is that's to keep the rice together. If you have the long grain rice, it's more apt to split apart. It's not going to form into the nice little onigiri balls that we're going to want to make today. So I went to the grocery store. I unfortunately could not find any short grain rice because #rural problems, but they did say you could use medium grain rice, and this was the only bag of medium grain rice that they had. So it's basically said that to cook 2 cups of water per 1 cooked or as desired, and then you bring to a boil, turn the heat down to low and cover on a lid and simmer for 15 minutes until all the water is absorbed. And then from there, we'll start making our balls. Once we get the rice cooked, it's gonna be really simple to make the balls. It's gonna be super easy, but we need to do that first. So I have got here the water that's gonna be heating up. Here, it's already starting to get a little steam on it. I have 2 cups of the medium grain rice that we're going to be using. So me and my bro will have plenty of rice balls. Also, the thing is when we pack the balls and actually make the rice balls, you want to have, I'm going to use this bowl and fill it with water and add some salt to it. You also wet your hands and salt them as well. And that way the salt actually keeps the rice balls formed and together, which is the fun science of it. When we had quarantine, I made a lot of onigiri because I had time and I was here and I was like, onigiri is easy to make. So as far as the fillings go, you can do anything you want for fillings. I thought we would do 2. One, I love spicy tuna. Spicy tuna rolls are so great. But I'm gonna use the cheap method of making spicy tuna, which is already pre-shredded tuna that's in this Thai chili sauce. You get this at the grocery store. I eat this a lot with rice. I'm probably gonna have a little thing of guacamole that I can put on my rice ball. My brother doesn't really like guacamole, so I'm not gonna put it in the rice ball. Just gonna have the tuna, but we're gonna be able to put it on the outside. And then I like crab as well. Now, I made the mistake a little while ago of watching a video on how imitation crab meat is made. which I should not have done because now I don't ever want to eat imitation crab again. I'm sure I'll eat it in sushi without knowing it because your California roll has it in it, but I went and got the legit crab. This is, when you tear this off, it's got a seal. It is ready to go. This is the actual special wild caught crab meat. You could get the crab legs and the big pieces of it, but this is already shredded, which I think will work better for the balls. And to mix up with this to make like a sauce, I've got some soy sauce. I like the low sodium, it's healthier. And then some sweet chili sauce that is the Panda Express kind. So we can mix it up, make a little crab meat goo and put it in there, and I think it'll taste pretty tasty. And then I had to order this online because #real problems. The nori wraps for the onigiri that you have at the bottom of it, I just got these. You could get a whole bunch of them, but this is just 10 sheets. And we're probably only gonna use like one and cut it up into strips to have for the little onigiri ball so you can hold it. So that's pretty much what we got going on. It's very, very simple. My brother will be happy to know that we have legit kitchen shears now.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Mother Trucker. Here's some shears. So we're gonna take this rice and we're gonna pour it in here and get this all up in there. Huzzah. Get that in there. I'm going to take my little spoon and kind of stir it around just a little bit so it doesn't immediately stick to the bottom. I am really excited if you get a shot of this, bro. It looks so, it doesn't look like much. You're like, oh, that doesn't look like it's going to do that. But it's going to boil here in a little bit. And so going by our instructions, we're just going to bring to a boil, which is going to be, I want to get a nice rolling boil, and then we'll turn it down low and cover it for 15 minutes and answer our Patreon question as we do as such. I have watched episode 16, and the next recipe I do is going to be for episode 17, which I did watch. Bro, my Kabru and Laios meeting. Kabru and Laios meeting. Are you surprised I'm fangirling?
Eh.
My brother doesn't ship at all. He's not a shipper. I'm over here like making conspiracy Pinterest boards of their future homes, and my brother's like, I don't care.
I'm sitting over here with the marshmallows. We're ready to watch them burn.
My brother just likes my ships going down in flames. I talked about this in the Discord, but I do believe that with Kabru, I think that Kabru, he's not out for any romantic interest. He's just literally TMZ. He just wants to know all of the gossip, and he wants to know all the psychologies on everybody. But he's such a natural flirt to try to gain everyone's approval that he would just, go along with anything. Someone made the comparison, and this is free run spoilers. So tune out for a hot second for free run spoilers. I'll wave my hand when the free run spoilers are done. I made the connection of Kabru being kind of like Ubel in Freerun, where Ubel would be like trying to track someone down to gain their powers. Kabru is tracking people down to gain all the intel on them. So they would kind of, do you see that connection?
Kinda.
Kinda. Okay, into Freerun spoilers. All right, so this is boiling, and we're gonna turn this down to low so we don't burn our rice immediately. We're gonna mix that up just a wee bit so nothing sticks to the bottom of the pot. Turn that down, and so we got our steam going. Has some dry throat there. All right, so I want to make sure there's no rice stuck to the bottom, and let that slowly simmer down just a wee bit. It's really easy to make rice, which is, I love rice. I don't know how you are, bro, but I could live off of it.
I like it.
It's probably my favorite starch or carb. Okay, so we're gonna let that calm down for a hot second. And we're gonna pop this over there, and it's gonna simmer for 15 minutes, so until 12:32. So real quick, I'm gonna put some water in this, and then we're going to answer some Patreon questions. And we'll have our two things for concoctions, which we'll do here in a second. Okay, so El Freya over on Patreon had these questions for us, and this is a game that we are gonna play, the two of us, which I'm pretty excited about. So it says, we are drafting a party to explore the dungeon. The rules are that we take turns taking a person from any team that we've met so far. We get to take turns until we each have 5 people, okay? So our options are from Laios' team, we have Laios, Marcel, Chilchuk, Sinchi, and Fallon. From Tansu's team, we have Namari, Mr. Tansu, Mrs. Tansu, Kiki, and Kaka. From Kabru's team, we have Kabru, Mikbel, which is the half-foot, Kuro, which is the kobold, Daya, Holm, and Reen. And Holm is the gnome mage, and Daya is the dwarf. And then from Shuro's team, we have Shuro, Mizuru, who has the cool owl sleeves, Hien and Benny Chidori, who are the two ninjas there, Asebi, who has the Kuroge ninja outfit on that we don't know a lot about, and Tade, who is the ogre.
You know, I don't remember names well.
Right. So, I know, I'm not a name person either. So, we each get to pick somebody from all those teams to be on our own team. We have to go one at a time. All right? Which one of us wants to go first?
You go.
Okay. This is really hard because I'd be like, ooh, what do we do? I know who you want to pick first. And so I'll be nice. I'll pick Laios. I'll pick Laios because Laios has extensive knowledge of the monsters in the dungeon. Laios has resolve. Laios is a great character. But I know who you're going to pick first, so go ahead.
You knew I was going to pick Chilchuck?
You're picking Chilchuck?
Well, yeah, he's got the tools to make sure we don't run to a mimic.
Oh, okay. Well, you can have Chilchuck. You can have Chilchuck. I'm picking Senshi next then. Oh, I thought you were going to go for Senshi because he's the chef.
I can cook.
Well, this is for your team. This does not include us.
Oh.
Do you want to change that?
No, I'll stick with Chilchuck.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to do Senshi. Because Senshi and Laios together. Laios has extensive knowledge of the monsters. Senshi can cook. I cannot, if we were involved in these parties, I cannot cook, so I would need Senshi. You, if you could cook, would not, so that's fair enough. But Chilchuck, okay. Chilchuck has been resourceful and really important so far to the series, so I could see that. All right, so far we got Laios, we got Chilchuck and Senshi out. Who's your next person?
The kobold.
Okay, so you want Kuro. Interesting. Okay. Can I ask why, or is that a spoiler?
I just like kobolds.
Okay. All right. You were like, all right, fair enough. Okay, I feel like now we've got Laios, who can be our warrior. We've got Senshi, who's our cook. We need a mage. At this point, we need a mage, because that's going to be important. Here's my thing about Marcel and Phelan. Marcel, good at ancient black magic. Not great at resurrection otherwise. Decent at healing. I love Marcel to pieces, but I don't know if she's the strongest mage of all of these choices, at least as far as we are now in the series. My problem with Fallon is flaky. Fallon is like, I don't know if I'm going to stick around. I don't know. Fallon is, to me, the strongest mage out of all of them from what we've seen so far. But I don't know if I would trust Fallon to stick with the party. So that's a problem. I'm going to go with Mizuru, who's the owl woman, because she can also cook. So if something happens to Senshi, we got a backup cook. And she's good at resurrection magic. And she seems like she has a pretty good head on her shoulders. So I would pick Mizuru. That's my choice. Who are you going with?
Marcel.
All right, Marcel. That's fair. You just want to have Marcel and Chilchuck have the argument and squabbles the whole time, and the kobolds in between, like, no.
Well, that, and I'm not against the whole dark, forbidden magic thing.
My brother's all for becoming a vigilante and running from the law. I'm going to avoid the police. My brother's like, F the police. We'll get through this.
Look, if it gives me dragon powers, I don't care. Bring me back that way.
I do love Marcel a lot. I do love Marcel. I'm thinking more of the tactical advantage. If I had to pick on personality and as a character as a whole, I'd probably pick Marcel too. But I'm going to go with Mizuru. Okay, so we've got that. I feel like of the ones that are left, here's my debate. I think I know who my last two are. I'm going to go with Namari next, because Namari knows weapons, and Namari would work well with Laios, getting the weapons together. And Namari would have to deal with Laios, but I think Namari, with Mizuru, there would be a good buffer. I think Namari and Mizuru would hit it off, so I think that they would be fine. And plus, again, if I were in this party, I wouldn't know as much about weapons, so I'd want somebody that's a blacksmith and it's got some strength to him. So I'm going to pick Namari. What about you?
I'm just gonna finish my team and pick the husband and wife duo.
You're picking the Tonsus?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
They got good. They work well together. They'll be able to work well with others. Chilchuck and Marcel will be able to work well with them.
Okay.
It's a good team.
Even though Mr. Tonsu has a little prejudice against elves?
His wife's there to knock him back in line.
I would not have expected you to pick the Tonsus. But also they know resurrection magic as well. So they can make up for what Marcel's not good at.
And in case they're out of mana, Marcel can use the dark one.
Man, okay, that's actually not bad. I was going to pick Kabru as my last one.
Okay.
Not only because of shipping reasons, but Kabru is a people person, and he could smooth over if there's any, Laios is not the great at interpersonal communication skills, so you need somebody there to, like, sweet talk the people around you, and Kabru also, as we will find out, is pretty effective at killing people, so... So he's having a mercenary on the team is not a bad thing. Okay, so my team is Laios, Sinchi, Mizaru, Namari, and Kabru. Yours is Chilchuck, Marcel, Kuro, and then the Mr. and Mrs. Tansu. Oh, what a wild pair! What a wild team. Okay, so their other question was, is there anyone we would not want or that we would hope would not end up on our team? Is there anybody we'd be like, no, I don't think they need to be on our team? That would be a problem.
Have you met the large group of elves yet?
No.
Then I can't say anything.
Okay. No. I know the elves are coming. The OPs have shown that they're coming, but I don't know anything about them, so I don't know anything about them yet. I know they're on their way because they've been shown in the OPs.
I'm not a big fan of them.
Okay. I know they're on their way. From the way that Marcel reacts to the notion of elves, I get an impression, but I want to wait and see what they're going to give us. But of these characters, of Shuro, Kabru, Tansu, and Laios' teams, are there anybody you'd be like, eh?
Not really.
Okay. I would say that Kiki and Kaka, they're fine. I don't think that there's any problem with them at all. I like Holm. All right, the gnome mage that works with Kabru's team. I like him. Daya's a sweetheart, the little dwarf woman. She's sweet. Reen is a good mage. She's kind of like the Marcel equivalent. She's a little bit more reactionary. Hien and Benedichidori, they're fine. I don't get a lot from them. Tade, I almost picked Tade over Namari, the ogre, on Kuro's team, or on Shuro's team, because I like Tade. I think Tade would be good strength as well. But I think Namari having the weapons would be honestly better. Shuro and Asebi. Asebi seems kind of flaky, so kind of like Fallon, so I don't know if I'd want them on my team. I don't like the idea of flaky people, because I'd be like, oh, what if we're in the middle of the battle and you're like, peace, and leave? I'd kind of not like that. So Asebi, I don't think Fallon would leave, but I also didn't think Fallon's like committed to, oh, we're gonna have the resolve to do whatever. She seems like kind of like, oh, I don't want to get involved, sort of thing. So I think the only thing with Shuro is that, from what we've seen in episode 16, when something he desperately wants doesn't go his way, he kind of shuts down, and he's kind of like, I'm not going to eat or do anything. I'm like, dude, you gotta keep up that stamina. So I don't know. I don't think I would curse anyone on your team by inputting anybody. I don't know. And then the last question they had was, what floor do you think that this team would survive to? What floor do you think that you'd make it to?
I'm going to be generous and say like 25.
We've only made it to floor 5.
Oh.
In this season so far. There's 25 floors?
Usually there's a lot of floors in a dungeon.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? No, they only made it to the 5th floor when they found Fallon and the dragon.
Why was that thing on the 5th floor? I'm just now remembering this.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dragon should be like 30.
That's what I thought. I don't know. I feel like we can make it to the dragon. I feel we could make it to the 5th floor. I feel like our teams could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd make it past that, but I think they could make it that far. I think it could be that way. I like these teams. I think these are great. I did not anticipate you picking... I figured you'd pick Chilchuck, But I did not, and the kobold makes sense. I did not anticipate that you would forego Senshi. I thought Senshi was going to be first pick. That's who you're going to snatch up.
He's good, but what has he done in combat?
The shade. The shade! I mean, true. Senshi's not a fighter. He's a cook. He's a cook, not a fighter. I think that's where the others would make up on my end, but yeah, that's a fair point. I need somebody to cook though, because I'm not gonna be, well, we're gonna make onigiri, so we'll see how that goes. Cool, well thank you Elfreya for those comments, for those questions for this week. I'm pretty excited about that. I'll put a question thing out for the future episodes, but yeah, we're gonna give this a couple more minutes, about 3 or 4 more minutes, and in the meantime I'm gonna get the little fillings together, and then we'll come back and we'll make some onigiri. So, this is all the rice. It's a lot. And we have, I've mixed up the chili Thai sauce with some soy sauce and the crab meat. So we've got that. This is just straight out the packet with the tuna and the chili. So it already looked like it had enough flavoring to it. It didn't need anything extra. I've got the water salted. I'm going to be dipping my hands in it and kind of coating it with salt to help make the onigiri. I did forget to do one crucial thing. And when I was looking up whether or not it was cool to just work with the hot rice, it is going to be hot on your hands. I didn't want to rinse the rice afterwards because I didn't want it to fall apart. And I realized something that I forgot to do before starting that I probably should have done. And that was rinse the rice. Usually they ask you to rinse the rice first to get some of the starch off. It's not necessary, but it makes the process... Basically, they want you to do it so that your rice won't stick to the pot when you're cooking. Now, luckily, we had it done where none of it stuck to the pot, so that was good. So we should be all right. But yeah, my brother's giving me the most disapproving look, like, really? You forgot? Bear with me. Sorry. So I'm gonna get my hands wet, get some salt in on them. And what we're gonna do first is take a ball of this. I'm gonna put some extra salt on my hands, make sure that's all good. And then take a ball of this rice. Oh, it's hot. And we're gonna do just you don't wanna do it too hard, they said. You wanna do it pretty gentle. And kind of do that. And then what you wanna do is kind of pat it down. We're gonna have so much rice. I feel like we probably could have gotten away. I see why they wanted to rinse it now because it is a little bit starchy, but that's okay. All right. And what we're gonna do is take this and put it down and wedge a little hole inside of it. And then I'm going to take some of my crab meat. I'm going to pop that in there. Kind of put in the center there. Oh, it's hot. And then I'm going to take some more rice. And I'm going to get my hands in the salty water. Some more rice. Put over the top of it. And we're going to start to form that into a little bit of a ball. It's a little bit messy to make the balls, which is fine. I'll clean all this up, but get the salt water in on it, and I'm going to delicately roll it around and let it cool. And while it's cooling with the stuff in the center, I'm going to set down on this piece of paper that has some salt on it to try to help it to keep from sticking, and we're going to let it just kind of sit there for a little bit. Meanwhile, I'm gonna rinse my hands. There's a little rice wasted in the process of this, but that's okay. And we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna start another one. And oh, that's hot! Oh, buddy. Get that down in there. Gonna make, probably need a little bit more actually. All right, so we're gonna form that ball in there. Oh. And then kind of get down in there. Open that up a little bit more. I'm making the biggest mess. Put that in there. I should have rinsed it before, and now I know what I'd forgotten from years prior. I said I knew what I was doing. I was so sure of myself. My brother's like, yeah, I'm not surprised.
The Wright brothers were so sure of themselves too.
Oh my God! All right, we're gonna get some of this out here off the top. That's maybe a little bit hot, 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 hot. Put that over there. All right, gather this up. Oh, gathering. Form this. They did say not to get too hard with it because you want it to form into the rice ball as it cools. So yeah, we're gonna, once you have this formed here with the little ball there, it's not quite, they make molds where you can do the triangular shape and all that good stuff, but for right now, we're gonna take that. I did wash my hands before, just so y'all are aware. I cut the nori into strips here. It actually came out in little sheets that were pretty easy to tear apart, but we're gonna take the one ball here that's already started to cool, so it's starting to get some shape to it. And we're going to take the little nori strip here, and we're going to wrap that around the bottom of it. And then it'll start to look more like a little rice ball. I'll set that on the plate. And then with this other one here, I'm going to take a little bigger strip. If you really want to get seaweedy, so when you hold it, it'll look like that. And we're going to set that down on there as well, so it doesn't stick necessarily to the plate. Okay, I'm going to make some more of these balls, so my brother and I will each have some, and then we will come back after I clean up this mess and do that, and we'll see how they taste. Before we see what it tastes like, I'm just going to give you all a look at the onigiri that we made. The nori wrap's not perfect, but they did form into balls for the most part. I did get my brother's a little bit bigger than expected, but then yeah, so they turned out all right, and we'll see what they taste like. All right, so we did get the onigiri made. There was actually just enough rice left that you could have made one more ball. The 2 cups of rice made, I mean, these rice balls are pretty big, but they would have made 6 very large rice balls if you wanted to. So I've got one of the tuna and one of the crab here. They are sticky. And then I took the leftover crab that was left. There was a little bit left since we didn't make that last sticky ball of tuna and crab, and I put it together with some avocado, some guacamole. My brother is not a guacamole person, but I like it. You can mash up guacamole, you can mash up an avocado if you want. I like the pre-made cups that have the sesame seed in them. They are expensive unless you wait till like the last minute when they go on sale, and then you snag them up when they're trying to like hustle them off the shelves. But that's what we're gonna use. So we're gonna take, I like the nori wrapper in that it lets you grip the rice ball so that it's not totally falling apart. And so we're gonna start this. I think this is the tuna one, but I could be wrong. Or it's the, did I do the tuna one first? I think I did, so this might be the crab. But I'm gonna take a little bit of this and put on top. I know some people said if you weren't sure, you could have put some of the crab or tuna on top to differentiate which one they are. I just wasn't thinking of it. If you pre-soak the rice, it won't fall apart. I might have to get you a fork, bro. My brother looked down at his rice balls like, so this is my fate. This is what's in store. The rice is great. Oh, this is the tuna. This is not the crab. This is the, I'm choking on rice. This is the pre-made chili tuna, the Thai chili, the Star-Kissed. It's good. Yeah. Pre-wash your rice. That's the lesson on that one. But it's really good. I don't have any qualms. It just fell apart. So that leaves us with, I'm just going to use a fork and eat this later. It's fine. That leaves us with the crab one. Now this is the first one I made. It's had some time to cool down, but it is already splitting down the middle. I see how this is gonna go. But we're gonna, I wish you all could have seen my brother's face of utter disappointment. Utter disappointment that has happened. That crab with the sweet chili sauce and the soy sauce is definitely a boon. Turn the beat around. Remember when we tried to make rice balls and it just became a plate of rice? So, lessons learned. If you don't want to be like me and have your rice completely fall apart, pre-rinse your rice in cold water before you cook it. It will take the stuff out and will make it stick better. Now that I felt like you ever have one of those moments where you have a flashback when you remember something and you're like, that was me whenever I read that online. I was like, oh, I forgot to do that. You could also use sushi vinegar, they said, if you wanted to try to get it to stick together. I hate vinegar though, and we dealt with that enough last week, so I was doing that. But this was great. Honestly, the onigiri was actually, it's a success. The rice is not burnt. It's cooked well. The crab meat with the chili sauce and the soy sauce is amazing together. It all tastes wonderful. It just didn't stick. So, what can we do? Any final thoughts, bro, about the onigiri? Are you so excited to have yours?
Yep.
All right, well, in any case, I hope you all have enjoyed episode 16's reaction and discussion. Next week, I'll come back and make another dish from episode 16, and then we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna grab my fork and chow down on this rice, and I'll see you all next week. Take care, have a great week, and I'll see you all with more of Delicious in Dungeon. Bye!